Hello and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 5th August 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and this discussion will contain many interesting articles from the Gazette magazine. Our discussion is divided in two components. The first video will contain the featured news. The featured news for today is on racism. Now this is a topic which is very much in hot debate around the world because of increased racist kind of activities at various spheres of the world. So in this topic we will understand what is the meaning of racism, what is the concept behind it, how this racism translates into Indian society. So Indian society and impacts of each of us. After that we will understand what are the impacts on people, Indian society, and how it can be curbed and how racism can be eliminated, right? So this is the first video. The second video will contain rest of the articles which are on this day in history, something about Neil Armstrong, 3 update articles for you. The first one is the extension of Samagra Shiksha scheme. So we will understand what this scheme has been about, holistic scheme about. The second one, the second snapshot is on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Amendment Act 2021. So this is where we will understand what is PIRP, Pre-Pack Insolvency Resolution Plan. And the third one is on issues about the mandatory food fortification which government tries to incorporate. Some issues with it. We will understand what they are. Image of the day is on the frog which has recently been discovered in Western Ghats. Terms and concept. The 4 term and concept for you today are Sabki Yojana, Sabka Vikas, a Gram development scheme. The second one is an update on Boeing Starliner, and the third one dragon fruit, and fourth is red tide. We'll understand through images what they are. Today's editorials are 1 on tax reforms and how GST 2 is required because GST 1 has not been able to serve some important purposes. So we'll discuss that. And the second one is on the energy transition and the utility of biofuels in India. Today's case study is on quail farming. So we'll understand what is the success story in India regarding the same. Let us start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to Neil Armstrong. It was on this day that he was born, August 5, 1930. The most important thing about him is that he was the first person to have stepped on moon, any celestial object which was away from Earth. And this was his step. And while stepping, he said, "That's one small step for a man, but one giant leap for the mankind." And indeed, it was a giant step in the field of space research, a revolution in itself. And he, along with Buzz Aldrin, they stepped out of the Eagle lunar module, right? So this module was the one which helped them come to the moon surface. Before this module was revolving around the moon in the actual module, Columbia module, right? So this module landed on moon, and after that, after a few hours of survey, they put their first step on moon, right? So this is Neil Armstrong. Both were pilots. New snapshot. The first snapshot is on Samagra Shiksha scheme 2.0. So the second version of Samagra Shiksha scheme. Now we have always heard of schemes like Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. Now Samagra Shiksha scheme is the one which encapsulates all of them, right? So school education has 3 components. One, the primary school component, that is Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Then we have Madhyamik School Shiksha Abhiyan, right? So Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan is about the middle school, right? Secondary school. And after that, there is one important component which is again a part of Samagra Shiksha, that is teachers training, right? So these 3 components have become a part of the fragmented schemes, and then they have integrated the whole school system of education in this term, in this name. Now in news is that this scheme has been extended up to 2025, right? Now this scheme also envisages including the National Education Policy 2020. So the main idea is to inculcate new technologies of education, especially in school education. So this is the main idea about Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, right? The important thing is also to note that SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 4, has been integrated into it, right? So primary school education is from 6 to age 14, right? And the secondary around 15 to 16 age. So this is the main idea, to ensure that all the students get proper education. And for the same, they have introduced KPI. So KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. So simple indicators for school education is for a student to be able to read, basic read. So for example, a class 10 student will have to be able to solve particular mathematical problems. to be able to read and understand basic science for a say class 5 student. So this is the parameter on which student education is based, right? Now India has been able to ensure 100% enrollment in primary education. We are able to have input of 100 students, but are we able to have the 100% output? No. One primary reason for inefficiency of this is also because of the teacher training. If we do not train the teachers efficiently, if the pedagogy, the methodology of teaching is not appropriate, if it is not up to the mark, how will student be able to achieve the optimal quality of education in primary levels? So that is why important component of teacher training is also a part of this scheme, this holistic scheme. Now, through NEP, through National Education Policy, we have studied NEP in respect of college education, where blended learning, blended teaching has also come into place, flexible teaching methodologies. We have studied these in these snapshots, and right now we are talking of the primary and secondary school of education. So this is where master trainers will be trained. So master trainers are the trainers who will train other people. So they will be training the Anganwadi workers. So this is for preschool, right? So pre-primary school. So between the age of 0 to 6, if children go to creche, right, when their mothers go to work, the children can go to creche and stay. So this is where master trainers will be training the Anganwadi workers. So this is one component of this new scheme, new part, right? In service teacher training. So this is another important component where some particular amount will be given to the early childhood care education, right, to the teachers. Right, the idea is to have play-based education. Some amount will also be reserved for per child learning. Right, this is the main idea. Also, security of the child tracking in terms of security, in terms of their own personal growth, in terms of their education standard. That will also be a part of it. Right, the idea is also to give them direct benefit transfer. Now you can link these kind of articles with what we studied at other places. E-Rupee, remember E-Rupee? So these are the cash payment cards. If you link direct benefit transfer here to that, this is where your integration of knowledge lies. So we are imparting knowledge and we will help you integrate it. And this is how I'm trying to link right now. Okay, so very simple things like virtual labs, right? Atal tinkering labs, right? Self-defense teaching for the students in the schools. Youth club, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, Eklavya model school, right? Libraries, physical education, all this have to become a part of this particular education, right? So this is what is the main idea behind extending this scheme up to 2025. Snapshot 2 is on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2021. Now, yesterday we had studied the factoring bill. What was it related to? MSMEs. Now, MSMEs, to be able to have quick supply of money, they need money. So banks and non-banks would be able to provide them quick and continuous supply of money in case they need money. Now, who will be giving the money to the banks in that case? Now, there are people where MSME also work with. So they do business with somebody and this person has some money in credit. They have to pay to MSMEs, but in this case, they will pay them directly to the bank or non-bank. And there will be continued supply because they will not be paying all the time, right? They might be paying with some delay, but banks and non-banks will be able to provide them quick money. So this was an amendment for MSMEs in the factoring bill, right? This amendment today that we are talking of again is related to the MSME sector only. So what is the new amendment here? The new amendment talks about pre-packs. Now pre-packs as a part of insolvency resolution. There are many MSMEs which are not able to pay back the money. So MSMEs owe money to somebody. They are in debt and they have defaulted that debt. So that is an NPA now, right? So that money will not be able to be repaid. And so in these times, there is something called as IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. If the organization has become bankrupt, so they will have to have different plans so that they are able to pay back to the debtors, right? The money who they own. So the people who have invested, the people who own, right, the investors in this organization, they'll have to pay them back. So in this case, in the case in which they are not able to pay back, there is an IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. This is initiated against them, right? So in this mechanism, a plan is proposed in which either they will have to sell their business or they will have to take loan from somewhere and some part of the loan will have to be repaid. So this was the initial mechanism, right? Corporate CIRP, Corporate Insolvency Resolution Plan. So this was the previous plan. But in pre-pack insolvency resolution process, what happens now in these specific organizations with default only up to 1 crore MSMEs, there is a new system that is called as PIRP. Now earlier this was a part of the ordinance, right? The amendment was part of ordinance, and now it has been formally introduced in the parliament so that it may be passed as an act. So the main difference between the previous and the present system is the ease of participation of the MSME. Earlier, this participation for 1 crore of default, up to 1 crore of default, the participation was not for the MSMEs. It was a corporate insolvency resolution. It was introduced and they will not be under control. Now, in the present mechanism, they will actually be able to initiate a PIRP, a plan by themselves. So, the MSME, this organization will be able to propose a plan by itself, right? And in this plan, two-thirds of the members, two-thirds of the creditors will have to approve this plan, and they can actually continue with this plan. So they will have the management control under them. This is one good output of this. So management control. Second, this will be a faster process. So time of resolution will be less. And the third and most important part is that they will be under a Swiss challenge. So suppose if they propose a plan and somebody else is able to give a better plan, so this plan will be executed. They might be also given a chance to make a better plan than this plan, right? So this is what is the Swiss challenge. Swiss challenge is the one in which somebody proposes something, right? And if another person is able to propose a better plan, the first one will also get an opportunity to compete with it. So this is the update about pre-packs. The third snapshot is on the issues with mandatory food fortification the government has planned. Fortification of food is a very simple concept, but a very powerful one. Now, we eat the salts daily. Salt is an important product for our food, but we have seen those ads in which salt is iodized. So this is the fortification, right? Iodine is being given to us so that we do not have the nutritional deficiency, malnutrition, and this is how the salt is being fortified. Similarly, government has planned to fortify all the other kinds of food as well. So cereals, the rice that we eat, the dal that we eat, they could actually have some important minerals, some micronutrients, so that our body does not feel the deficiency, right? Similarly, oils, right? Many oils are mixed with important nutrients, important vitamins. Very simple, vitamin A, D, E, K, right? They are fat soluble, so they can very easily mix with oil in the fat, and that is how they can be given to ourselves so that every person is able to have proper nutrition. Now, this is the plan of the central government. However, experts have started to raise concerns over these plans because they feel that this might actually counterfire. Now, fortification is of two kinds. The first that I just mentioned, adding some important nutrients to our cereals, right, to the kind of oil that we intake. So rice may have folic acid, iron, vitamin B, etc. Similarly, salt with iodine. And there's another kind of fortification that is called as biofortification. Now, this is the fortification that happens while the crop grows. So while the crop grows, only we inject some important minerals, some important vitamins, so that the crop has that particular ingredient right from the beginning. So we are talking of food fortification right now, right? The concerns that have been expressed by the experts, the first one is that we do not conclude properly if the effect of introducing these particular minerals, particular elements is actually productive or not. So the evidences are inconclusive. Scientific evidences are not conclusive. Also, there is a conflict of interest. How? These companies which are being a part of these experiments, these are the same companies which sell these particular entities, right? So the companies which are researching, suppose Nestle is the one which is researching on fortification of food. Nestle is the same company which is selling these kind of products. So they of course have conflict of interest. So this is the first allegation. The second one is hypervitaminosis. So what does this mean? This means that the amount of nutrition we will actually gather from such kind of food fortification can result in excess of vitamin in the body. Why? Specifically because the amount of anemia and vitamin A deficiency, for example, the deficiency that we have in body, this has been overrated. Overrated means if people say that 90% of women in India have anemia and 50% of women in India have acute anemia, this is overrated. That means there are fewer females than this who have anemia. So if we have overrated our deficiency, we will try to give them more nutrition. If we try to give them more nutrition, they will have They will have excess presence of vitamins in their bodies, and this itself is counterproductive for the body. So this is the second point. The third point that has been spoken of is of toxicity, right? Now, if we give increased amount of such kind of nutrition, supplementary nutrition itself to the body, it might lead to toxicity. It might get stored in particular parts of the body and develop into a toxic element inside the body. Not only this, we are trying to give this kind of supplement to who? To those people who cannot afford the basic food. So if they are not able to afford the basic pulses, basic dal, basic rice, and we are trying to give them increased nutrition, this might actually prove counterproductive for that health of that person. So this is another point. Cartelization. Now it has been alleged not only in India but Europe as well. A lot of organizations have already been fined, because if fortification of food is happening, only few organizations are doing it, right? So they will all group together and they will raise the prices of all the fortified foods. How good is that? No, it is not good for competition. It is not good for consumerism, right? And therefore, this cartelization is an impending crisis in case we do such kind of fortification. The article also says that the idea is to eat the balanced diet, right? Why not eat the green vegetables? Why not eat eggs? Why not consume dal, the pulses? Why are we trying to supplement it? So why are we compromising on the basic diversity of the diet that we naturally need to have? So this is the main article and how it talks about compromising on dietary habits. Image of the day is on the frog species, a new frog species which has been discovered in the Western Ghats. Western Ghats are a very important place because they are an important biodiversity hotspot in India. Western Ghats, Eastern Himalayas, the Indo-Myanmar region, these are all the important biodiversity hotspots around the world. And why specifically this area is important is because a lot of amphibian diversity is present along the Western Ghats, and most of them are endemic to the region. That means most of them exist only in Western Ghat region, and therefore finding them, keeping them there in their own conserved space, in their own territory, is the most critical thing that humans could participate in. And that is why this species of frog is in news. Term and concept. The first term and concept for us is Sabki Yojna, Sabka Vikas. We talk of grassroots decentralization, and this is where a scheme like this plays a very, very important role. This was launched in 2018, and now this has been spread to various sectors, various rural sectors of the country. The main idea is to have a grassroots plan, Gram Panchayat plan, development plan, which can be initiated from the grassroots, right? So participatory approach to development of a region, right? So that infrastructural gaps can be reduced. So the main idea here is to ensure that public disclosure of the schemes and finances be done, right? So not only that, but also to ensure that the elected representative are the ones who are participating in the main process, right? So this is why the scheme Sabki Yojna Sabka Vikas has been introduced. Do remember. The second term and concept in news is Boeing's Starliner. Boeing is an important company in space research, outer space research, and also creating of aeroplanes. So Starliner spacecraft is this spacecraft, right? Now this will be a part of the rocket that will be launched. So this was to be launched, and this was a module which would get later attached to International Space Station. Now these small creatures that you see are human beings. The idea is to have 7 human beings here, or to have few human beings and some amount of matter that has to be reached to the International Space Station. And the news is that this test flight has been postponed for now. So do remember the name Starliner. Also, to note that this kind of module is experimented for various purposes. For example, launching is one. Docking means to be able to attach to the whole research station. So this is called as docking, the way it gets attached to it. After that comes re-entry into atmosphere. So once it goes, it is not unusable. It can actually come back. So coming back and re-entry into our atmosphere is another mechanism in itself, another scientific exploration field. And then landing on the Earth's surface. So Earth's surface, desert or sea, wherever it has to land. So all these components have to be tested. And not only in India, not only in America, India is also attempting all these things, right? So therefore, you must remember Boeing's Starliner. The third term in news is dragon fruit. Why news? Because Gujarat and West Bengal for the first time have exported this fruit to United Kingdom and Bahrain. Now, important to note is that this fruit is grown in southern states. So states from the eastern region and southern region primarily grow this fruit, and this is called as kamalam in India. This has got a lot of nutrition advantages in the terms of having antioxidants, fiber, minerals, etc. That is why in demand internationally. The best part about this fruit is that it requires less water to grow, and it can grow in various kind of soil. So these are the kind of fruit which APIDA, Agricultural Production and APED, an Export Development Authority, should target so that agriculture can grow in India. Fourth term in news is red tide. What is a red tide? In this image, we see some red kind of surface which is approaching the sea coast. So red tide is nothing but algal blooms, and this time we have seen them at the Gulf of Mexico coast. Right? So Florida is one of the states, one of the provinces of USA located in Gulf of Mexico coast, right? And this is the place where algal bloom have increased in the form of these red algae. Now this has got a lot of shortcomings. Why? Because they deplete the amount of oxygen present in that particular space, and this causes all the marine biodiversity to die, because they will not get enough oxygen for themselves to breathe in, right? So since the demand of oxygen will be high in this area and all will be consumed by the algal growth, other organisms will not have anything to breathe and they will die. And this is why this is in news. These algae also release toxins, and that is why this water is also not left drinkable, not potable. And where do they grow? They grow in warm ocean area where there's a lot of nutrient content which is inflowing in the sea region, right? Where there are calm waters, where there is low salinity. So these are some parameters in which this red algae grows. Concepts of biomagnification and bioaccumulation are also related to it. How? Now, suppose this is the red tide, and we have a turtle. A turtle is able to drink this particular water which is full of red tide, right? So red algae, and this water is not good. It has got a lot of toxins. Later, this turtle is consumed by a big fish. Let's suppose that, and later this fish is again consumed by human. Now, when these kind of toxins get deposited in the body of this particular turtle, this is called as bioaccumulation. Later, when fishes keep eating this turtle, they will have bioaccumulation as well. But a lot of fishes will keep eating this turtle, and later this fish will also be eaten by human. So there is biomagnification. There is a magnification in the amount of the toxin that is present, that was earlier present in this area, later also spreads through the food chain. So this is the concept of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Coming to editorials of the day. The first editorial for today is on GST reforms. The article says that present structure of GST is not the best to go ahead with, and that is why the requirement is to go into GST 2.0. The first point it says is that in this structure of GST, the political architecture is such that the center has more weight than combined weight of the states, right? So this is one of the important issues that the article points about. The second one, it says that petroleum products, important products which are taxed, are not a part of the structure. So this does not represent a holistic structure, a scheme of taxation. The third thing, it says that registration and taxation, also certain exemptions in registration and taxation have been exempted, also have reduced the GST base. So the base that we have for taxation gets reduced. The fourth thing, it says that a lot of people do not reveal the right proper tax information. This is a constraint. And input tax credit, there are also some corruption which have been done in input tax credit. What is input tax credit? This is the kind of exemption people demand. See, suppose if I am producing a product, but I am also intaking certain products. So if I'm a restaurant, and these are the vegetable vendors I have taken the vegetables from, I have also paid taxes for the inputs, and I am also paying taxes later. So why do I pay taxes later when I have paid some taxes previously? So this tax will be credited. So that is why input tax credit. So there are corruption also happening in input tax credit. This is what the article says, and therefore we need a reformation in the GST 2.0. The second editorial for today is on energy reforms. We have been speaking about energy reforms. Why? Because there is a huge transition in economy that is going to happen in the energy sector. How come? Now, the present state of structure is such that the conventional mode of energy, the energy which releases greenhouse gases, they are being shunned. For example, coal, and newer forms of energy, for example, biofuel, have been introduced. But India is one country which is dependent heavily on the Gulf countries for its petroleum products. around 80% of petroleum is imported for us, right? So this is a matter of concern, and this is where the article says biofuels must be utilized. The article says that this is a huge population, a growing population, 18% of the world, and therefore the demand is to shift to a smoother transition, right, to biofuel, which is also a cleaner mode of fuel, right? So this is what the article says. The article also points that the new form of transition also must utilize the energy of rural youth, because they can also be skilled and employed. So this is the discussion of editorials. Case study of the day is on quails. These are Japanese quails. These are birds which are found in the East Asia region. They can not only be utilized for production of eggs, they can also be used for meat, supplying meat. And this is where our case study says that in Koraput region of Odisha, this time of COVID, these Japanese quails have been utilized and they have actually resulted in the growth of agriculture in the region. How? We will see that. Firstly, they have yielded high profits, specifically to the small and marginal farmers. Why? Because they are very cost effective. They are cost effective because these birds, these quails, eat local food and they produce a lot of nutrition in the eggs. The meat is also very nutritious. So therefore, we not only maintain nutritional security, there is a good demand of these products in the market, right? So therefore, we understand that this Japanese quail, an innovative product in the market, can actually lead to a lot of revolution in the agricultural region. This has also helped the women farmers in the community. This has also helped the Adivasis, the local tribals in the Koraput region. So this is a beautiful case study where innovative food products can actually enable the agricultural system of the country. Thanks for watching.